Hello, everybody. What's up? Thank you so much for tuning into the Queen's Lounge podcast. I am your homegirl, Shay. And of course, I have another dope person with me on today to get this interview started. I'm going to bring her in so she can introduce herself. Miss Fales, please let the people know who you are.
Hey, I'm Cynthia C.L. Fales. I am an author, I am a publisher, I am a story shepherd, and a whole bunch of other Ers that maybe we'll get into today. But more than anything, I am also an educator at heart.
Yes. One thing that I absolutely love, I feel like the educators in general, from when I was growing up until now, have been underappreciated.
Yeah, I would agree
I
with that.
definitely believe that they've been unappreciated. They're right up there with parents because once the
hmm
kids leave home, they go to the educators to further their educating, if I could say.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they're just as important as a parent's role or a mentor's role. So you guys are very unappreciated. So we appreciate you so much for just taking the role so seriously.
Thank you, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, Miss Phelps, we're going to get started with the interview. So, my first question to you would be, how long have you been an educator?
I would tell you, and most educators would probably say this as well, probably their entire life.
Wow.
If you think about some of the things that you do when you're younger, we
Mm-hmm.
tend to end up doing those same things as we get older as well. And when I was younger, I was in sports, and I always found myself like a mentor to the younger teammates that were there. So I was
Uh-huh.
educating and didn't even realize that I was educating. And the same would happen when I was in school and I'm working with classmates. I'm educating them based off of what I know and trying to help fill those gaps where the educators are maybe working with somebody else and I'm
Uh-huh.
filling in the gaps. So I think it started when I was young.
That's
Officially,
awesome.
it probably didn't start until summer of I don't even know what year that was. I was in college for a while. So
Wow. What school did you
yeah.
attend?
So I went to K-State.
Oh.
And I was there for like a year and a half and wasn't
Mm-hmm.
sure what I wanted to do. And everybody else looked like they had it together. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And I left and came home. And I was at KCKCC for a couple of semesters and then figured out what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be and went back and finished my degree. But
That's
when I
awesome.
went back to K-State, it was the first semester right after I went back. I got to come back to Kansas City and serve in the Kansas City Freedom Schools. And that was where my love of
Wow.
education really started.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you always taught in Kansas City, Missouri?
So I've always lived in the Kansas City area with the exception of when I was at school. So
Gotcha. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
so all of my educating has been here with the exception of because I'm a publisher now, I get
Okay.
to go to conferences, virtual
Mm-hmm.
conferences, which means I get to extend my reach a little bit. So I've had the chance to educate people who are in Italy and who are in Australia and
Wow.
globally, which is pretty cool too. So
That's pretty cool and very impressive, I might add.
it's a lot of fun. I don't
That's
know if it's
pretty cool.
impressive, but it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So what grade do you teach?
So it just really depends on the person themselves, right?
Hmm.
I've had the chance to work with pre-K students all the way up through college students and even grad students. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's pretty
I've
cool. Now, are these students that you are teaching or leading, are they going to be educators? Is that their field?
not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. When I used to work at UMKC, I had the privilege of running their coaching program.
Okay.
And so I was coaching undergraduate students on how to become a coach and how to guide people through their university experience that first year and really
Hmm.
ramp up those skills so that they could be as successful as possible while they were at UMKC. But the students came from a wide variety of majors. So we had students who
Oh,
were in the
cool.
conservatory, we had students who
Hmm.
were in the School of Business and Education. And so, yeah, it was just people who love to help.
That's awesome. And it sounds like it's a lot to kind of keep together too, because there's
It
so many
was.
different things that you're helping, educate on. That's a
Yeah.
lot. So what kind of educator would you say you are?
You know, I don't know if you can put me in a box. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can tell just by hearing everything that you're doing. You're kind of,
Yeah.
being pulled in several directions.
I am. I am. So it's interesting. I started in education um, with the Freedom Schools, and then
Mm-hmm.
instead of going directly into the school systems, I took an education approach from the outside in, right? So I'm still working with students.
Uh-huh.
Did a year of service with AmeriCorps Vista and was their youth service coordinator. So really digging into the students who had court mandated hours, helping them figure out what they loved, and then finding a way to encourage them to do more than just the mandated hours. And they were extending those above and beyond. I worked with Kaufman Scholars doing some after school programming and some weekends, and really just, I came in as a trainee.
Uh-huh.
And then by the time I left, I was their life skills, director of life skills, curriculum and instruction, and their director of marketing, which I don't know. I don't know, but I also along the way had the chance to co-develop an initiative for their freshman girls. So
Oh, cool.
yeah, everywhere I've gone, I've been fortunate to have supervisors who see my skill set and then work to put me in positions where I can not only use it, but grow it,
Mm-hmm.
which has been super helpful. And I've taken the same approach with everybody that I work with as well, not just seeing where you shine and then putting you there, but giving you the opportunity to really grow and expand those skills. So,
That's awesome. One thing I love about educators is the diversity in you all's job because
yeah.
you come across so many different ethnicities of children, so many
Hmm.
different ways that children learn and operate, and being able to really get in a creative mode on the
Hmm.
way you teach, what how you teach. I love teachers that are visual teachers, teachers that like to actually write lesson plans out where the kids can actually have a hands-on
Yes.
experience. I'm starting to see a lot more teachers do that, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And I really, really love it. Now, in your professional opinion, do you think a teacher that just does book-based versus visual learners, how does that kind of help the kid grasp what's being taught?
I feel like you have to have a varied approach to
Mm-hmm.
education because, like you said, everybody learns differently. There are some that are
Right.
visual learners, there are some that are auditory learners, and there are some that learn by doing. So the
Uh-huh.
teachers, the educators that are really good at what they do, the ones that students love the most are the ones who vary their instruction in ways that everybody can grasp something.
Right.
And once you have that one little nugget, that one spark of hope, it makes you feel like you can do something more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know how to do it yet, but that
Yeah.
yet is super powerful because there's hope on the end of that thought, that whatever that thought was, that yeah, maybe I can continue to learn. And then you're more engaged in the class and in the lesson and in the learning, which makes you a better student.
That's awesome. What do you think is the most difficult challenge for teachers when it comes to teaching students? Because I know there's a lot. There's a battle
Yeah,
with
I'm
the
that like
school
how
systems.
yeah, how do
There's a
where do we
battle with the
start?
parents. Yeah, there's a battle with maybe other or other students when it
Yeah.
comes to particular students. So what do you think is the main challenge
The
for teachers?
main challenge.
Or
Oh
one
my
of a
gosh.
million?
I don't, yeah. I could probably give you three that are probably top three in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And the first being all of the state mandated things that are being trickled down onto the teachers, right?
Uh-huh.
You have to make sure that the kids are doing this, 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 and this, right? So now you
Right.
feel like you have to teach to the test instead of teaching the student how to think.
Correct. Makes
Then you have
perfect sense.
parents who are hypercritical in a lot of cases, and
Uh-huh.
not necessarily as supportive, um, and don't necessarily know their kids the way that you know their kids
Yeah. Yeah.
because you see them more intimately and their frustrations and you're trying to help
Uh-huh.
them through their frustrations and um, yeah, so trying to communicate that to the parents who see their child as an angel, that is
Yeah.
definitely
Which is
a
completely the
challenge.
opposite. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely a challenge. And then you have um oftentimes, and this is a big one that I'm starting to see shifts in, which I'm grateful for. But in the past, there were administrators who didn't necessarily have experience in the position of teaching, which
Uh-huh.
makes it hard for them to relate to the work that the educators are actually having to do in the classroom. And
Right.
then there's expectations that they're passing on to the educators are sometimes unreasonable. And
Mm-hmm.
a combination of all three of those things makes it really hard for an educator to do the work that they are being asked to do, that they love
Mm-hmm.
to do. It can lead to them leaving the education system, but some type of way, and I'm guessing it must just be coming from deep down in their soul, they still persist through all of this. And I
Yes.
love that. I don't love that they have to persist through that,
Right.
but I
Right.
love that for the future of our country because educators are the foundation of every career. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I find that COVID is it was one of those things that kind of took the world by storm.
Yeah.
And it's very much still present. It's not
Mhm.
as on a wider, global type of microscopic thing.
Yeah.
So it's something that is still very much here, but not really talked about as much as it was when it first happened.
Mhm.
But I would want to say that parents have a much more understanding and more of an appreciation for teachers
Yes.
because of the small amount of time that they had to be the teacher. It's
Mhm.
one thing to teach a kid how to do everything that you want to teach them and that you know about and
Mhm.
have some knowledge on, but having to teach a kid about things that you don't know about or
Right.
don't have a clue about or haven't been in school, for a very long time to be able to teach
Right.
what it is. And I often hear a lot of parents say, I'm so grateful for the teacher that my child or my children have
Yeah.
because they have a job that I just could not do.
Yeah.
And I understand why now.
Yes.
I understand why. My son is not of school age yet. He's only 10 months, but I have little cousins who are currently in school and
Mhm.
hearing their parents and my friends, their kids' parents just saying how much they're so appreciative of the teachers now. They have a new level of respect.
Yeah.
Now, with my next question, it kind of goes hand in hand with the COVID thing. So,
Mhm.
COVID being what it was, students being out of school, parents having to, take over that responsibility of
Yeah.
teaching. Now that kids are back in school, things seem to be getting a little bit more um comfortable. Things seem to be, a little bit more on the regular routine now. Has there
Mhm.
been a shift or a difference in the way the kids are learning again? Like was it difficult or hard in the beginning?
I am not in the classroom right now. I
Uh-huh.
do have a niece who is she's a rising 10th grader now. She just finished her freshman year.
Oh, cool.
She got to skip most of middle school because of COVID. I was like, "Ooh, who gets to skip
Yeah.
the worst,
Stuff is
the
just
worst
happening to
period?"
them
And
at the wrong
I was like,
time.
"Wait,
Where was
no,
that at
like,
when I was in school?
right." But then I also have a godson who's finishing up third grade right now, so I get to see,
Wow.
what education has been like from through their lens,
Uh-huh.
and watching the way that my godson specifically has navigated through this because he was finishing up, I feel like it was kindergarten. Oh, it was definitely kindergarten because I had him um here with me during spring break and he had some stuff that he was working on specific to
Mm-hmm.
kindergarten and they were talking about counters and I was like, "Hey kid, I can't help you. I can do a lot
Yeah.
of stuff, but I can't help you with this." But yeah, watching his shift and hearing about his classmates shift behaviorally,
Uh-huh.
from sitting in front of a computer to now learning how to interact with classmates, that
Yeah.
has changed for the younger kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're having to relearn some of what they were starting to learn in kindergarten, or
Yeah.
they're having to relearn that and still like navigating through that.
Mm-hmm.
But for the older kids, what I've noticed and have received feedback from a niece about is that some of them much prefer the virtual learning because
Wow.
they don't have to deal with classmates who are tormenting them or they don't have to
Yeah.
to deal with
Yeah.
the bullies, and if I get my classwork done
I'm
early,
just done.
I'm done, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so there's I think what we'll probably see um is some shifts in what happens after graduation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
With kids who are they've tasted that freedom
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, do I
Yep.
really want to go into post-secondary anything right now? Let me go to a
Uh-huh.
trade school, or let me do some online certifications or online training.
Yeah.
So I feel
Yeah.
like that might be some of the shifts that we see in the future.
Wow. I was having this conversation with one of my girlfriends. She has three girls who are two are in high school and one is in middle or junior high school.
Hmm.
And she was telling me that when we were growing up, and we're not old, but we're old enough
Yeah.
for things that have been different from when we were younger up until now. And we were
Hmm.
having a conversation about books and how a lot of the kids have laptops and they have, tablets and things like that where they use or they do their learning on. They do their
Hmm.
homework, they do their reading, anything that the teacher gives them, they're using it technical wise. And I
Yeah.
was thinking to myself, and I asked her, I said, well, how do you feel about that? And she said, I really don't think that they're learning anything because they don't have to go look for it. They don't have to go search for it. They don't
Hmm.
have to, go to a library and get 4 or 5 different books out
They don't
and
have to
find
Dewey
it. She
Decimal
said that they
System.
literally, exactly.
Right.
She said they literally can go to a laptop, click it, and it's there. I
Yeah.
said, man, that must be nice. She said, but then that worries me because as they get older and they become adults, and some of those things that they may need in their adulthood, they're not going to know because they didn't
Hmm.
actually learn what it was that they needed to know, the essentials that they needed to learn in school to be able
Hmm.
to go out in the world and conquer it.
Hmm.
I said that makes perfect sense. And if it's like that in 2023, I can only imagine what it's going to be like when my son gets to school.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I feel like that there are a lot of millennials and Gen Z who
Uh
are
huh.
figuring out right now that even some of that basic stuff that we thought we were learning in school, we didn't really know. And that's where you have
Yeah.
those TikTok hacks that go viral, right? And those
Uh huh.
videos that
That's so
for,
true.
for stuff that seems super simple and like common sense, but my mom used
Just
to
didn't
tell me
know.
common sense ain't always common. And I was
Yep. My
like,
dad
well,
says
what do you
that.
mean?
Uh
And now I'm discovering what it
huh.
means,
Me
right?
too.
Yeah, so I feel like that might have been something that started before even picking up a book or going to the library, and those are invaluable skills that we learned.
Yes.
But I think they are modifying those skills because you still have to know where to go and where to
Mm-hmm.
search and how to sift through credible sources online as
Yes.
well. So I think that's what they're picking up. Um, and you don't really need a Dewey Decimal System anymore, I suppose. I'm sorry to any librarians that are watching,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah,
I definitely agree. I would spend hours
yeah,
in high school and also in college looking for search stuff,
yeah.
researching stuff, doing papers. And
Hmm.
I used to hate those 10 and 11 and 12-page papers where I have to list all of my
All of
credits
the
and all of
sources.
it was just it was way too much. So
Yeah,
these kids nowadays have it very easy.
yeah.
So speaking of that instance, this goes to my next question. How can we as parents, that's the way I want to word it, how
Mhm.
can we as parents be more supportive of the teachers? What can we
Mm.
do to do a better job to not only support when at school but also to support at home?
Yeah, I think just asking what the educators need
Mm-hmm.
help with. When you ask them that question, there is like a load that is lifted off of their shoulders, right? Because they feel like I don't necessarily have to do it myself. They may or may not
Right.
give you an answer, but just being seen and valued and appreciated for that, I think will change the relationship and the dynamic that you have with the educator, which also changes the dynamic that they have with your student, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, asking them what they need, um, asking what they're working on or checking out because they're updating stuff online so much, making sure that you're current on what your student is working on and finding out if there's things that you can supplement at home, if there's worksheets that you
Yeah.
can use at home, if there are concepts that you can apply outside of stuff that looks like homework that feels more like just fun interactive activities with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the types of things that we can do to help educators do their job a little bit more easy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes because
Okay.
my son's not that old yet. I'm taking notes and I'm passing it on to,
Yeah.
family and friends as well. But I think that also I think there may be a shortage in teacher parent communication or lines of communication because I know when I
Yeah.
was growing up we had PTA meetings, we had, and I know they still do parent teacher conferences. I know that
Mhm.
is very much a thing, but I feel like the kids are more out of school than they are in school. So I feel like there's a lot of stuff missing there. But I
Yeah.
do understand that educators have a job that can be stressful, it can be overwhelming, and teachers need a break as well. So I do understand, a teacher needing to take a day or two off,
Mhm.
or the school system recognizing a teacher's day off or a teacher appreciation week to just give the teachers a break. But I think implementing things where the parents and student, or the parents and teachers, can come together and have a conversation to kind of have an open dialogue to figure
Mhm.
out what needs to be done. If it's the school system's fault, what we need to do to better the school systems, because I feel like it's just a lot missing, and I feel like once the missing pieces are put where they need to be put, then
Yeah.
I think everything kind of flows the way that it's supposed to. And I think it
Yeah.
makes it easier not only on the teacher but the student and the parent.
Mhm. I love that. I hear that. I agree with that. I only
Mm-hmm.
wonder where you fit that into a teacher's schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
because
right about
their
that.
load is so heavy already, and they're inputting
Yeah.
grades and updates and all of this stuff, and a lot of that is extending after work hours and starting before work hours, and
Yeah.
that is a
Yeah.
crucial component. I just wonder how we could be intentional about incorporating that in a way that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't overwhelm and overburden the educators. Yeah.
You're correct. You're definitely correct. A lot of teachers that I've talked to get the curriculum, but they have to make their own lesson plans.
Hmm.
And so I know
And
that.
submit them.
Oh my gosh, and submit them as
Yeah.
well. And I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure once they submit them, they have to be looked over, make sure that
Correct.
they, add up to what needs to be taught.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm just not going to be an educator.
Or
You
do
guys
it from
have
a
a
different direction, right? A
yes,
different angle to it. Yeah.
yes, you guys have a tasking job. That's a lot. Okay, my next question would be, do you think that there has been a decline in respect for teachers? Because here lately I've seen a
Hmm.
lot of social media activity about teacher student issues, or teacher student not doing what an educator or a student is supposed to be doing when they're in a classroom setting. There's been a
Hmm.
lot of issues with that. And I think it
Hmm.
has a lot to do with, of course, I think it starts at home. The respect starts at home. And then
Sure.
not only that, but I also think that they just don't respect teachers.
Hmm.
You know what I
I
mean?
think I think it's being amplified more, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it was always happening.
Always
And
happening.
yeah, as you were asking this question, I was thinking back to when I was in high school, and
Mm-hmm.
I went to school with some very interesting kids who were learning and growing. I'll just phrase it that way. But
Yes.
I can remember there was a time where they took raw eggs and threw them up in the heating ducts, and I was like,
Oh wow.
who does that? Like, well,
Yeah.
I don't understand, right? It's not something that I would do,
Me
but
either.
for kids, like pranking, and I don't know that they would see it as disrespect,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the action
That's what it
itself
is.
was
Yeah.
disrespectful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Disrupting the class with jokes, disrupting the class with um, quick versions of the dozens, right? With the
Uh-huh.
teacher, whether the
Right.
teacher is participating or not. I mean, they might just be an inactive participant, and the
Right. The student is doing it
recipient
all.
of it, and the student
Mm-hmm.
is doing it all. But I feel like it has been happening this entire time. But because social media gives us the opportunity to see it,
Yeah.
we feel like it's happening more often, and it may be happening more frequently, but I feel like it's always kind of been
Mm-hmm.
an undertone
It's
of
always been there.
at least public education. Yeah, at
I
least public
agree with
education.
you. I grew up in a household where my parents aren't old, but they're old school.
Yeah.
Um, Respect. Yes, ma'am, no ma'am. Yes,
Hmm.
sir, no, sir.
Hmm.
What? That was not happening.
Correct.
Words that sound like they were almost cuss words wasn't
Right.
flying. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I grew up in a household where respect was very much prevalent.
Hmm.
My parents were very much active in my brother and I's life. And
Hmm.
so those basic things that we needed to know growing up and being an adult, right today, my parents get um what is that? Get like I don't want to say pats on the back because my parents are not those type of people,
Yeah.
but they get compliments on my brother and I and how we were raised because we
Mhm.
say yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes
Mhm.
so no, no sir. We say no, excuse me, I didn't hear you. Could you repeat that? Those kind of things. So I think, and then I don't even know if it's in it's on a bigger scale. I do believe it's on a bigger scale because sometimes it's not even the parents' fault. The parents can teach all of that
Mhm.
at home, and then once a kid gets in an environment where they're with their own,
Right.
and when I say own, I mean their own peers, own age
Yep.
group.
Yep.
They tend to be a little different than what they
Yeah.
were at home, and
Mhm.
they tend to let what they were taught fly out the window. Because I do believe kids will be kids. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it was a good point that you made when you said that they don't think it's disrespectful, but the action itself
Mhm.
is disrespectful. And because social media is such a big thing now, like I don't think
Yeah.
it's going anywhere, but because
Mhm.
it's a bigger thing, it's being amplified more, and
Yeah.
people are starting to see the disrespect more. But I don't think teachers get paid enough to be going through all of
Oh, they definitely don't. They
that.
definitely don't.
Not at all. I don't think that they get paid enough to do all of that, and even if they did, it still is borderline, would you do your parents like this type of
Mhm.
thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Would you
And
do
in
enough?
some instances, I feel like some of the kids would be like, "Yeah, like that's the relationship that I have with the
You know
adults in
what I
my
mean?
life."
I don't
Yeah.
understand it. I don't
Yeah.
understand it. I don't This new generation I'm worried about. I'm concerned about because if my life is predicated on them, taking over, mm, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's not looking good. Not looking good. It's not looking good. And that's not to shame them, but I don't even know where to go from there.
Yeah. I guess my hope lies in they talk about, the loud few being the
Uh-huh.
ones that are getting most of the attention. My hope is that the rest of them
Kind of fall along.
are, yeah, they're doing what the rest of us were doing this
Yes.
entire time, and that those that are the loud few that are getting all the recognition, that are going viral for whatever they were doing, whether we perceive it as right or wrong. Yeah, my hope is that they, once they get to a place where they can start to understand and comprehend actions and how they have a ripple effect on the world
Mm-hmm.
around them and then on their own world as well, that they
Yes.
start to make that shift, and
Absolutely.
that the larger majority of children right now will be seen as, oh, maybe this is a
The
shift I
way to
can make
go.
towards
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
hope they have a bigger impact
Mhm.
on the kids who just choose not to wanna,
Mhm.
or choose not to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so Miss Fields, my last question with you would be,
Okay.
we know what the educators are doing. We know what we as parents need to do. Now, what can we do as a neighborhood, as a community, to help better this generation? Because, like I mentioned, I'm not that old, but I'm old
Yeah.
enough for things to be very much different than what they were when I was growing up. And we had my parents worked during the day, and so
Mhm.
I would walk to the bus stop. But at the same time, we had neighbors who had kids that also went to the same school I did. All the parents knew each other. We
Mhm.
all lived on the same block.
Yep.
The parents would switch off days taking kids to the bus stop, waiting for us to get on the bus, waiting for the bus to pull off. And I feel like there has been a major decline because you just can't trust people
Mm.
nowadays. And there's so many things. There's predators, and there's people who don't treat your kids the way that you would. There's so many different uh things that happen that I think has made a decline in the neighborhood and the community kind of being a backbone
Yeah.
to the educators and the school system. So what would be your take on that? What can we do as a community, as a neighborhood in general, to help get the students back on the right track?
I think there are so many things that you can do for those who have the ability to,
Mm-hmm.
stop in at your neighborhood schools, the schools that are in your area, whether you have a kid there or not, and see if you
Mm-hmm.
can volunteer. Um,
It's a good
because
idea.
the more engaged you are in the school, the more other people will see that, the more
Yeah.
engaged they will become in the school. And even not, if they can't be engaged in the school itself, they'll be engaged in the community where they can be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think part of it too is really stopping to take the time to get to know each other. Um, and that is going to take a lot of time, and that's going to take a lot of patience.
Yes.
And that's going to take a lot of people letting down some walls that we've built up because of whether it's fear or whether it's experience. But we're going to have to relax into the idea that our neighbor is our neighbor instead of our
Hmm.
neighbor is a stranger. Because the only
Right.
way that they can no longer be a stranger is if you stop and take the time to get to know them. So,
Correct.
yeah,
That is very true. Miss Fales, thank you so much for taking time out of
absolutely.
your day today to hang with me at the lounge, have an open dialogue, an open conversation about teacher appreciations, how important teachers are, and giving us some insight on what it is to be a teacher, to be an educator, to also let us know what our responsibilities should be as neighbors, as a community, to kind of help gear up with the teachers to make sure
Yeah.
that the students get the proper education, to make sure that we're doing our part. Is there anything that you want to say to the teachers just to give them a pat on the back, just to give them some encouraging words to keep pushing, to keep going? Is there any last words you want to say to them?
We see you, and
Yes.
the summer is coming.
Yes.
Maximize that time.
Yes.
Yeah, maximize
Absolutely.
that time. And then let us know how we can help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Miss Fales, this will not be the last time I invite you on the show. Thank you so much once again. You will be
Yeah.
hearing
Thanks
from
for having
me.
me.
Yes, ma'am. Once again, if you are not, you need to be following the Queen's Lounge podcast. I am on Facebook. Wherever you listen to podcasts, I am there. Go ahead and click on me so you can hear what I have to say and also check out this interview once it is posted to all the streaming sites. Miss Fales, thank you once again. It was a pleasure, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one.
Alrighty. Bye bye.
Bye.